Time to review what I think is the worst of the prequels and the worst of the Star Wars movies. Yeah, that's Star Wars Episode 2. Unfortunately, this should have been the one where I was like, this series is getting back on track, but it's not. Just know that if I didn't say everything I wanted to say about Star Wars Episode 2, I probably forgot about it, and it's stuff you didn't want to hear, I definitely forgot about it. So, we're going to talk about this now. Let's get down to it. Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. And this review is going to be really spoiler heavy. I'm going to talk about this movie like you know it, like it's going out of style. Attack of the Clones takes place 10 years after The Phantom Menace, and every time I watch the prequel trilogy, I just think in my mind, why do we need The Phantom Menace? The whole prequel trilogy could have just started off here where Anakin's training to be a Jedi and Obi-Wan's the one training him. Could have just started off here and they could have been like, hey, when we found you back on Tatooine, you know, let's go do some shit. Yeah, no, but George Lucas didn't do that, so he just did The Phantom Menace so he could do pod racing video games and sell action figures and yeah, all that fun stuff. Pretty much just tells me George Lucas knew The Phantom Menace was a bad movie and he's like, yeah, well, that's the movie I want. This movie proves to me that George Lucas is not good at writing dialogue because ultimately George Lucas describes this movie as a love story and we gotta talk about that shit. Because a love story in here is completely dumb, it's pointless, it makes no sense. Don't get why Jedi can't date, like, when did that rule come about? It's like, why are Jedi forbidden to love? He has that rule where it's like, well, you know, Jedi are forbidden to love. That was nowhere in Star Wars lore before this movie. And all of a sudden, it's just thrown into this movie. Anakin has an infatuation with Padme, who's played by Natalie Portman. Well, who wouldn't have an infatuation with Natalie Portman? She is goddamn hot. It's like you kind of saw their relationship in Episode 1. You're like, oh, they're probably, you know, going to meet up in a few years and going to start banging each other and dating each other. It's been 10 years. Anakin is still infatuated with this chick. She probably doesn't care about him, but he is still infatuated with her. Just keeps telling Obi-Wan, he's like, I haven't seen her in 10 years. What if she doesn't recognize me? When I play pasta salami, all I think about is Padme. Oh my god, on top of the bad love dialogue that George Lucas wrote, Hayden Christensen's acting, especially in the love scenes, is beyond terrible. Like, why was this dude cast in the movie? The only reason I've heard George Lucas come up with is this. Because he's a good sword fighter and we needed a good lightsaber fighter. No, you should have an actor in the movie who's both good with a lightsaber and has acting chops. Not just because he's good with a lightsaber. Like, seriously, Hayden Christensen, that whole scene where he's going with Padme to, like, Naboo and he's assigned to protect her, he's just super creepy. He's just... Sorry, my lady. If she doesn't get stalker vibe off of that, I don't think she's a human being. Each other in 10 years. It's weird because every scene in this movie with Anakin, I just feel like he's obsessed with her, like he's like stalking her or something. Seriously, every scene he's just, I want Padme to be with her, she's in my very soul, tormented in my dreams. Master saw me doing this right now, he'd be very annoyed. It's like so evident, it shoves it down your throat, and especially that scene at the beginning. There's one later on in the movie that I'm going to talk about in a minute, but it's the scene at the beginning where he and Obi-Wan are like assigned to protect her, because there's been an assassination, there's been a hit put out on her, and a bounty hunter named Jango Fett is commissioned to kill her, so he commissions another bounty hunter to kill her. Yeah, I know, shitty business, right? Yeah, make the whole galaxy think you're menacing by hiring another bounty hunter to do your dirty work. Seriously, this little droid comes in and it's just, it unleashes these centipedes. They're probably like poisonous, but it's like, if you really want to kill her, just open the thing and boom, boom, gone, grenade. But then the Jedi can't go on their little adventure. And it's funny, too, because Anakin's ultimately assigned to protect her, and they go back to her home planet of Naboo, and she's like, I don't want to date you, Anakin, but she's wearing these super sexy outfits that, like, show Anakin that she does want his ass, and Natalie Portman looks super insanely hot in them. But it's like, in that whole scene where they're by the fire, and he's basically pouring his heart out to her, he's like, I want you in my life, and terrible, shitty love dialogue. She's wearing that sexy black outfit. It looks like a corset with the thing running down the middle. I'm like, why are you wearing that if you don't want to date the dude? Is that like normal Naboo attire? Do you all walk around like that looking sexy as all hell? I sure as hope so, because if there's humans on that planet like Natalie Portman, oh yeah, I'm going there. Bounty Hunter attempting to kill her thing, because Sam Wessel in this movie is just, why? It's pointless. You feel like she's in this movie because A, Jango Fett needs to be introduced later in the movie, and B, George Lucas just want to put a speeder chase in there. Speeder chase is completely out of, like, it's out of nowhere. Like, why? It's not that good of a scene. And then while Anakin's being creepy and trying to bang the hot-ass senator, Obi-Wan goes on his own campaign to Kamino, and some really interesting things happen on Kamino. It's probably the best part of the movie next to the Jedi battle in the Jedi arena. Obi-Wan goes to Kamino to investigate a lead he got from Sam Wessel. That's pretty much why she's in the movie. Commissioned the construction of a clone army 10 years ago, and Obi-Wan's like, yeah, well, Master Sifo-Dyas was killed nearly 10 years ago. Then he gets on the horn with Mace Windu and Yoda, and he's like, Master Sifo-Dyas was killed nearly 10 years ago. I was under the impression that he was killed before that. Which is just conflicting information. So was he killed 10 years ago, or was he killed before 10 years ago? Because I remember going through the DVD lately, because I remember going through the Blu-ray, and I was like, alright, go to the Phantom Menace, let's look at the Jedi Council, who's Master Sifo-Dyas? I don't recognize him anywhere. Oh wait, he's been killed before the Phantom Menace. You need to connect everything well together. You can't just conflict all your information. You can't just say one thing and then contradict it and be like, oh no, it's actually this. It doesn't work like that. Oh, and then Anakin and Padme crash land on Tatooine because Anakin has in his head, he's like, I gotta go see my mother. You find out Watto sold her to the Sand People. They pretty much like made her a slave, and now she's dying, and she dies in Anakin's arms, and he just slaughters Sand People. And this part of the movie, this is a part where you can just tell like how close he and Padme are, and you know, that they're falling in love, and I'm like, I don't buy it. And plus too, this part has terrible acting by Hayden Christensen. He's just hanging out, and Natalie Portman comes in, and you know, he tells her what happened, and she's like, you're not all powerful, and he's like, well, I should be. I should be the most powerful Jedi ever. It's all Obi-Wan's fault. He's jealous of what I could become. And then he terribly starts crying. It's not even real tears, it's fake tears, and he's terrible at it. And he's just like, I killed them. I killed them all. And not just the men, but the women and the children too. I hate them. He does that weird thing with his mouth where it's like, he can't tell if he's crying or not. I'm just like, oh God, I don't know how this dude gets cast in movies. It's so bad. You're just watching the scene, you're just like, alright, stop talking so we can just break this fucking scene. Get the fuck out of here. Then he just falls to the floor and starts crying. I'm like, yeah, I don't buy it. I don't buy his sadness because he's a terrible actor and he delivered it poorly. Then they get to Geonosis, and this out-of-nowhere action scene happens, which involves Anakin and Padme getting captured. They're about to go into the cool Geonosis battle, and the dumbest scene in the whole entire prequel saga happens. This is where they shove it down your throat. This is why you don't buy the fact that these two are in love with each other. Like, they just shove it down your throat. It's like they shove their fist down your throat and just be like, they love each other! It's the most cheesiest scene ever. It's weird, it's bad dialogue, and they just start talking with each other. Every time I watch this scene, I just turn my head and look away, or I want to throw up. I just find that funny.
Don't be afraid.
I'm not afraid to die. I've been dying a little bit each day since you came back into my life.
What are you talking about?
I love you.
You love me? I thought that we had decided not to fall in love. That we would be forced to live a lie. And that it would destroy our lives.
I think our lives are about to be destroyed anyway. I truly, deeply love you.
Alright, two things about this scene. Who the fuck gives a shit and who the fuck says shit like that? Nobody says, I truly, deeply love you. You either love somebody or you don't love somebody. Tell them you love them. Don't go the extra mile and say, I truly, deeply love you. After this, though, you get something I've always wanted to see in a Star Wars movie, and that's a bunch of Jedi just throwing down. They just all take out their lightsabers. They're all around the arena, taking out their lightsabers. They're ready to fight the droids. That part is pretty cool. That, until they fight Count Dooku, is pretty cool. Like, the whole fight against the droids and the whole clones coming in and helping them, that's pretty cool. But what pisses me off is when Samuel L. Jackson plays Mace Windu. I have no problem with that, but when he whips out his lightsaber and it's purple, and George Lucas's whole reasoning behind it, oh well, because Samuel L. Jackson wanted purple. Movie, I would be like, I want a purple lightsaber. I would expect George Lucas to be like, no, because lightsabers are blue and green and red for a specific reason. But now that Mace Windu's lightsaber is purple, the color and structure of the lightsabers completely doesn't matter. It doesn't exist. Sweet action scene in here though, and it's entertaining to watch. And just when the clones just come in with Yoda and they start wrecking house, that's where it gets cool. But then Obi-Wan and Anakin go to lightsaber fight Count Dooku, and that lightsaber fight, I think people were just like, hey, that fight with Darth Maul was a bit too choreographed, tone it down a little bit, make it more real. And when they're lightsaber fighting Count Dooku, it's the dumbest lightsaber fight ever. So they're not even hitting each other's blades, they're just it's all stylish in their face. Cut the power. It's like a light show for kids. It's not just that. This lightsaber fight shows how poorly and how bad Obi-Wan and Anakin are with their skills with a lightsaber. If you look at The Phantom Menace, Obi-Wan was a Padawan. He was a pupil of Qui-Gon Jinn. He and Qui-Gon Jinn had a lightsaber fight Darth Maul, who had a double-bladed lightsaber. Ultimately, Darth Maul killed Qui-Gon Jinn, which left Obi-Wan to his own devices, and he was the only one that could fight Darth Maul. He chops Darth Maul's lightsaber in half, so Darth Maul's only got one blade. Then he chops Darth Maul in half. Darth Maul goes down for the count. You watch this lightsaber fight, Obi-Wan absorbs the Force Lightning, which was cool in his lightsaber. But then when he's lightsaber fighting Count Dooku, it's like they cross, and then Obi-Wan just gets slashed once in the arm, once in the leg, and I'm like, it looked like you may let that happen. I'm like, where are your skills from when you fought Darth Maul? Are you really that rusty after 10 years? And then Anakin lightsaber fights Count Dooku, and it's the dumbest thing ever. He's like, I thought you would have learned your lesson by now, boy. He's like, I am a slow learner. So he's fighting Count Dooku, and then there's just this one scene where Anakin holds out his arm, and Dooku just slices his arm off. I'm like, so did everybody let themselves get hurt in this fight? And then Yoda comes in, and yeah, I know a lot of people don't like Yoda with a lightsaber. I prefer that he doesn't have a lightsaber, but I can live with the fact that he does have a lightsaber, because when he's fighting and he's bouncing off the walls, it's funny, because they're like, you're 900 years old, and you're doing that. You're a badass. So is that he and Count Dooku actually have a Force battle before they start lightsaber fighting. He's shooting Force lightning at Yoda. Yoda's absorbing it with his hand, and Yoda's like, much to learn, you still have. Count Dooku's just all like, it's obvious that this contest cannot be decided by our skills with the Force, but by our skills with the lightsaber. Which just tells me lightsaber fighting is better than the Force, and it's really not. The movie ends, and at the end of every time, I'm like, why did they even call this Attack of the Clones? Why did George Lucas title this Attack of the Clones? Because it's one event throughout the whole movie. You don't see The Empire Strikes Back titled The Battle of Hoth. You don't see The Return of the Jedi titled The Ewoks. You don't see A New Hope titled Your Father's Lightsaber. Why is it called Attack of the Clones? I don't get it. I don't know, I couldn't pick up a good name for this movie. If I had to pick something, it would probably be like Shadows of the Dark Side or something. I don't know. Something stupid like that, but it's better than Attack of the Clones. Guys, I don't like Attack of the Clones as a movie. It's Star Wars, so I feel like there are parts of it that I have to like. Like, there are entertaining parts. Like, for instance, the action scene on Kamino. The whole half hour with the Jedi just throwing down in the arena and then the clones attacking, those are really good scenes. Those are entertaining to watch. But the rest of the movie, not so much. Especially the stupid bullshit romance. Guys, Attack of the Clones is a terrible movie. I like it less than The Phantom Menace. It's my least favorite Star Wars movie. That's just how the cookie crumbles. So have you seen Attack of the Clones? What do you think of it? I want some feedback. Drop me a comment in the comment section below. And for more news and reviews on movies, movie trailers, video games, and TV shows, like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter. If you're on YouTube, hit the big red subscribe button, and welcome to Madden. Revenge of the Sith coming later.